Hello. I want to start by asking you a question. Do you have people in your life who are so difficult or so demanding that when it comes time for you to speak your mind or ask for what you want, it's just not worth it? Like the amount of stress that is going to be caused from actually doing it, you'd rather just go along with what they're saying? My name is Terri Cole, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I am a relationship and boundary expert, and I'm also the founder of the Real Love Revolution. I wanted to talk to you today about these difficult relationships, right? How can we set boundaries with impossible people, including narcissists, including people who are super passive aggressive? How can you do it? So that's what this entire video is going to be about. So grab a cup of tea and let's get into it. Let's start with simply identifying what is a boundary. So a boundary is really being clear, you being clear about what is okay with you and what is not okay with you in relationships. So here's the problem. If you were raised in a family system that didn't teach you healthy boundaries, and most of us were raised with some kind of dysfunctional boundary system, right? It didn't have to be terrible. It's not always about abuse, but a system that didn't really work. My own family was kind of waspy, so if something was difficult to talk about, nobody actually talked about it. It was everything was sort of underground, which didn't mean that people weren't mad. It just meant that people weren't talking about what they were mad about, you know? There are other systems and dysfunctional ways of boundaries being expressed in family systems, like screaming and yelling. This is one way. Now, that's not effective, but it's very popular. Giving the silent treatment, being passive aggressive. When someone in the family system, could be the mom, could be the dad, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. But that person is not acting like everything is fine. So before I can get into helping you and guiding you in how you can actually draw boundaries with difficult people and narcissists, we got to dive a little bit into you and your own ability or lack of ability or boundary style that you have right now and how it got there. So let's just talk. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions to think about so that we can start to figure out what is what I call your downloaded boundary blueprint. So just think about the family that you grew up in. Did people talk about problems? Were people allowed to express what they wanted? Were they allowed to disagree if they didn't like something? Or were you punished if you disagreed from what the rest of the family was doing? Was there effective communication or ineffective communication when it came to asking for what it is that you wanted? Were you encouraged to speak your mind and tell the truth? Think for yourself? Or were you discouraged by being punished if you did those things? So just take a minute and get an idea in your mind, a little visual of the way it was. So if I am thinking right now about the home that I grew up in, when things were good, everything was good. So there was a lot of communication about what was right within our lives and the family system. Where there was trouble in my family system that I grew up in was that nobody had the words to express themselves when they were angry. So it was just like an emotion that was kind of off the table. No one was allowed to be angry, which of course did not mean that people were not angry. It just meant that we didn't feel like we were allowed to express that anger. And if anyone did express anger, you were definitely in trouble. Like that was not cool. So obviously that set me up to not be able to draw boundaries when I was angry and to not be direct. So if you're not allowed to be angry, what do you think that creates? Passive aggressive form of communication around boundaries. Because if you're only allowed to communicate when things are great, that's not living a full life, right? We have to draw boundaries when things are not great. Usually when things are great, that's when you have the least amount of boundaries you feel like you need to draw. So I just want you to think about your own home or situation that you grew up in, so you have a little mental picture of the way your family problem solved, or if you were allowed to draw boundaries or not, and the way that your parents did it or your siblings did it. So let's move on to, what do you do now that you have a little bit of an idea? Because this is the thing. Drawing boundaries effectively and healthily It's actually learning an entirely new language. So don't worry, by the end of this video, you're going to have a little cheat sheet that you can download of a couple of steps and a couple of ideas of language and phrasing that you can use. But before we get to that, I want you to think about in your life, who are the most difficult people that you have? Because when we think about people who are narcissistic and difficult personalities, they're very exhausting. Right? Narcissists can just exhaust us with their demands, their entitlement, their bullying ways, their inability to compromise, their inability to take in what you want, and how much they resent if you draw a boundary. I mean, most narcissists, if they're really narcissistic, they think they're above all other people's boundaries. Like, they have no respect for your personal boundaries, and that includes your property, your desires, your thoughts, your opinions, but they think they're above the actual law. I mean, this is one of the traits of someone with narcissistic personality disorder. It can be an indication of it, is they feel like they have a right to steal things from the office that they work in, that those pens are theirs and they could take them home, or they have no problem cutting in line. They think that those rules do not apply to them. So in knowing this, imagine how they respond to boundaries. And if you have a narcissist in your life, then you know that they will overreact and freak out and try to basically torch the village to really dissuade you from trying to draw that boundary. So drawing boundaries with difficult people is not for the weak at heart. I do have to say that. And you have to look at your own style right now of drawing boundaries. Like, what kind of a dance is it that you're actually doing in your relationship with these difficult people? A lot of times, when you're in these relationships, you just sort of give up even trying. Feel like this is going to be so painful if I do it that maybe I'll just acquiesce again. But when you give in all the time to someone else, you really start to lose yourself as a person. It's so dehumanizing when how you feel, what you want, your desires, your preferences are never in the mix. It really makes you feel like a non-person in that relationship, right? So I don't want you to give up. I want you to try. And then if you need to make bigger decisions in your life about getting out of certain relationships or having limited contact with certain people, then you can do that. But if you just give up on protecting yourself or give up on drawing these boundaries, you really will end up really depressed. We all these lies that we tell ourselves around why we don't draw boundaries, that, it's not that big of a deal. And, I'm kind of a go with the flow type of person, you could tell yourself. But in the end, it's your job to take care of yourself and to be clear about what it is that we want and what is okay with us and what is not okay with us. That's basically what a boundary is, right? The simplest explanation that Brené Brown gave was a boundary is letting others know clearly what is okay with us and what is not okay with us. Now, could that be any simpler? I mean, that's pretty simple. So before we go into how to do it and ideas of what you can do, I want you to close your eyes and bring to mind the person or people that you have the most difficulty drawing boundaries with in your life. So think of the last time you tried to assert yourself or say no to something or express your preference or disagree with them. What happened when you either attempted to draw that boundary or wanted to draw that boundary? I want you to really visualize it. What stopped you from doing it? Or if you did attempt to, what happened? And just take another few seconds of visualizing this interaction. Okay, now open your eyes, and you should have a good idea of the reasons that you find it difficult to draw boundaries with this person just from this exercise of seeing yourself there. So a whole bunch of things could have happened. Either they could have shut you down, or they could have used a diversionary tactic. If you say, hey, I asked you to pick up your clothes from the floor before, if you want me to wash them, and you didn't do it, if you keep leaving them there, I'm not going to wash them anymore. Whatever. Let's just say that was the boundary you were trying to draw. They may then say, well, you're not so perfect yourself. What about the way you left the car yesterday? Now, that is a diversionary tactic. So you don't go with, we're not talking about yesterday, and we're not talking about the car. I'd just like to make a simple request, whatever. I'm going to teach you how to actually make a simple request so that it's easier to do this. But I wanted you to bring to mind what it is you're actually struggling with. Because whatever came up in that exercise, right, this is going to be the place that we start for you in learning how to draw healthy, appropriate, effective boundaries. And keep in mind, you guys, this doesn't have to be done in anger. And in fact, I strongly suggest it not be done in anger. So it can be done with patience, with kindness, being polite, right, with love. That is very possible to do, because the truth is, drawing boundaries is probably the most loving act that you can execute in a relationship. Do you understand why I say that? When you draw a boundary, you're giving this person intel on you, data, information about what you like and what you don't like and what your preference is. If the person really loves you, they'll care, even if they're defensive initially. Hopefully, eventually, they'll care. So before we get into other tips that I want to give you about this, I want you to really think about the fact that in a lot of relationships, if you're very codependent, you most likely allow the other person to dictate what goes on, what the mood is, what the feeling is in the relationship. You're sort of waiting to see, oh, are they in a good mood? Are they in a bad mood? Is it going to be a good night? Is it going to be a bad night? When you're drawing boundaries and getting healthier in your life, you dictate how the mood is. You understand? Instead of dialing into their mood. Because the only way to draw appropriate boundaries is you have to be the boss of you. You have to be the boss of you, not letting someone else be the boss of you. So don't let them dictate the mood in the conversation, and try to keep the mood kind, harmonious. There's no reason. It's not necessary to fight viciously in drawing boundaries. It may feel very threatening to you to do it, so it may make you feel like you have to do it with anger and all of this power. But the truth is you don't, and I can teach you how. So let's get some language together for some situations that you may find yourself in. And don't worry, again, you'll have that little cheat sheet at the end of this vlog / blog / podcast / whatever we're calling it. So you'll be able to sign up and actually get that to give you ideas when you're actually out there in the world trying to do it, because it's very easy to forget how to do it. You may read it and go, oh my God, that makes total sense, or hear me saying it and say, yes, I can definitely do that. I'm definitely doing that. Then you get out there and you're in that situation and the person's getting all aggressive and you have no idea what to say, and you just want to do what you would normally do, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is you stopping the bad conversation before it goes completely off the rails. So this is what I meant before when I was saying that you dictate the mood. If you're talking to someone who has a temper and they start to raise their voice, or they start to name call or get hardcore into the blame game, you have to just get yourself out of that conversation. You can leave that conversation saying, hey, the moment that you start raising your voice, I know nothing productive is going to happen. And so I'm telling you, I'm not going to be tolerating this type of interaction because it's not good for either one of us. So I'm getting off the phone, and we can talk again later if you're feeling more calm or whatever that is. So those are the words, like stopping them. Hey, I just want to let you know that I'm going to get off the phone now because you are starting to name call and it's not productive. If you want to talk about this calmly later, if you think you can, we can revisit this, but right now I'm going to go. And then you hang up. You can say goodbye, and then you turn off your phone. Now, this is really hard for people who are codependent, to draw that kind of a solid boundary and then not go back on it. And it will kick up a lot of fear for you to do this, but you can do it. You don't have to be mean. Don't call a name back. Don't be super aggressive. There's no reason to. Just get off the phone, and you can do this in person too. So if you're in an interaction with someone and they want you to do something and you've said no, whether it's an ex that maybe you're co-parenting with a really aggressive or difficult or narcissistic ex-husband or wife, and they start to get all do that dance that they're trying to suck you into, you can say, hey, I'm absolutely not having this conversation when you raise your voice. So this is me turning around and getting into my car. We can have this conversation when you can be calm. But I'm going to tell you right now that every single time we talk, every single time you raise your voice, I will be ending the conversation until we can do it calmly. It's not good for me. It's very uncomfortable, and I'm not doing it. But you have to be solid, and then you have to get in your car and you have to drive away if you're in person with that person. So again, this may seem like very bold moves, but you have to make a decision. And don't worry, I'll give you ideas of how to start small, but you can't give in, especially someone who's a narcissist all the time, right? They want what they want when they want it. You don't allow yourself to be hurt that they're so selfish and that they don't take you into consideration, even if it is a current relationship, because your job is to either make them take you into consideration because of your amazing ability to draw boundaries, because it's really about you taking you into consideration. Like, do you understand that? That it's not their job, even though it would be lovely to be in a relationship with someone who was super thoughtful and did that naturally, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who out there who do. But it's not your partner's job to do that. You are the boss of you. It is your job to say, hey, this really doesn't work for me, or I really don't like that, or can I make a simple request that if you're going to be more than 10 minutes late, you call me. And let me remind you that if you're going to be more than 20 minutes late, I will be eating without you, because that really is upsetting to me after I work so hard to make this meal, or whatever your reasoning would be. Not to mention just being 20 minutes late for a dinner you made is pretty rude. So if someone does it on a regular basis, you have to come up with the language instead of, now let's think about what you might normally do. Be withdrawn in anger. They show up. You act all pissed off, so you're all frozen and mad, and they're all trying to get you not to be mad by making stupid conversation about nothing and trying to make you laugh about something, or being super nice, or complimenting how great the food is or how great you look. When all those things may be true. Maybe you do look great. Maybe the food is awesome. But when you're having that conversation as a reaction to this covert communication, it's super ineffective. And it might feel good for like that minute that they're trying to get you not to be mad. But what I care about, you guys, is your long-term mental health. And that doesn't do it. You becoming the boss of you and the boundaries and what's okay with you and what's not okay with you and what you will do and what your limits are, that is on you to communicate clearly. And if someone is a repeat offender, then there has to be consequences. If someone is 20 minutes late all the time, there has to be consequences. If that drives you crazy, hey, I have friends who are 20 minutes late all the time, and I accept it in them because I know they're going to be 20 minutes late. I plan for them to be 20 minutes late. And trust me, for me to be dealing with you being 20 minutes late all the time, you must be really, really special in other areas. And that's a choice. You understand? All right, so let's go into some situations. So I just plucked a few from my therapy practice over the years of people who've had situations where I had one client who had a boss who was a super narcissist and was incredibly entitled to her time. And so he said, I told the team that you would work overtime on Friday because Amy is away. And we knew this was going to happen because he had done it before, so we came up with what her reply would be. And she said, I'm sorry, I'm actually traveling on Friday right after work, so I will be unable to do the overtime. And I'd like to make a simple request that in the future, going forward, give me some lead time, because if I can do it, I'd be happy to do it. But like this Friday, I actually can't do it because I already have other people and I've already paid for tickets. So I'd like to just make that simple request that if you can ask me a couple of days before, or we can get a schedule up. So they actually, in the end of that situation, they ended up doing a group Google Doc type of thing. And actually something did change. I mean, not Google Doc, a Google Calendar. And it did actually change, although her boss was really pissed and kind of was mocking this guy was such an idiot. But anyway, but she didn't work on that Friday and she didn't get fired. So, but she was shaking to actually give that reply, but she did it. So let's say another one is I had a client who had an ex-boyfriend also pretty narcissistic, who would just tell her how it was going to be, even after they were broken up. So he'd left some crap in her shed, and he was like, okay, so I'm coming over tomorrow at 2 o'clock to pick up my crap from your shed. I know where the key is. And she was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be home tomorrow, and it's not okay with me that you go to the house or go into the shed when I'm not there. I need you to respect my boundaries and my schedule, and if you don't, I will be compelled to call the police about you trespassing. And of course, he flipped out, but I can tell you, he did not go to her house when she was not there. And she made sure that she had 2 other people with her the day that he did pick up his crap from her shed. So again, but can you imagine how scary? It sounds so simple, of course, when I'm saying it, because it wasn't my narcissistic ex-boyfriend. It sounds simple, but you know that even if the words sound simple, it takes courage to actually say them. All right, what was the other one? I had a client who had this, I called her boundary bully friend, who was always kind of bossing her around. And, a lot of work that I was doing with this client was about empowerment and how she could get empowered to speak her preference in this relationship with this woman. So she had said to her, hey, I want to, I'm having a dinner in the city for our reunion. So there's a whole bunch of girls who hung out together, women who hung out together, and they were coming from other places. And she'd asked my client, I know you hate going into the city. Do you mind? And she was like, please, please, please don't make it in the city. I don't want to go into the city. I really don't. I've been having trouble with my night vision, all these things. But she was specifically was like, I don't want to do it. And then she ends up getting a note from her friend saying, hey, and she did it on a reply all, like just to make my client be like in the hot seat, saying, hey, I know you said you really weren't into doing it in the city, but everyone else can do it in the city and wants to. Please, please, just this one last time, do it in the city. Don't be a party pooper, like all that. And my client held firm. She felt really manipulated because that was really manipulative. And she actually, instead of hitting reply all, she just replied to the one person who had planned it and said, hey, I was really clear about my preference. I asked you specifically not to plan it. I don't appreciate you doing a group email and calling me out and trying to like peer pressure me into doing it. And this is just a symptom of other issues in our friendship. So I will not be doing the dinner in the city. And I really need you to respect my boundaries going forward. And her friend was like, I'm really sorry. I can't believe how mad you are. And actually, in that case, the friends changed it and did the dinner in Jersey, which is where my friend lived, and did it close to her house. So it did work out. Now, I don't know if any of those situations resonate with you, but the real thing that I want to talk about, because it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you guys in our visualization exercise before were able to sort of think about the last difficult one that you needed to draw or wanted to draw. But the crucial element, the key to really doing it successfully is consistency. And this is where it gets really hard. You might get really heated, and then it happens again, and you're like, oh, man, I don't feel like dealing with this. I don't care. So I need you to care. And if you're going to draw a boundary with someone and really become a boundary ninja, which you can do, you have to learn the boundary basics, which we're talking about in this video. And now I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of videos in the next couple of months because it's leading up to my Boundary Bootcamp Challenge, which is going to be the end of August. I'm super, super excited for this. And then I'm launching Boundary Bootcamp, where you can learn everything you've ever needed to know about boundary drawing in your life. So I want you to really think about getting consistent. And again, as I said, this is not for the weak at heart, right? You have to really want it to work. And a great exercise for you to do, and don't worry, it'll be in that downloaded thing that you're going to be able to do, our little cheat sheet, is I want you to think of that situation that we did in the exercise before, and then you're going to come up with simple, solid, firm, calm language to draw the boundary that you want to draw with that person. So, and then you can share it on the website, because this will be right up as my blog. And if you need help, I will help you. And ladies, if you're already in my Real Love Revolution, I have a Facebook page that's, Facebook group that's free. Please do it. I'm sorry, you guys, it's only for women. Just go to Facebook and look for it, Real Love Revolution. And if you're not already signed up and actually subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do, and let me know other videos that you would like from me, because I'm always taking your requests, and trust me, I'm writing them all down. And in my next batch of videos, I'm going to be doing a bunch of request videos that you guys have actually sent in. So you now have some language ideas of how to draw these. I'd like to make a simple request. Please stop. I would prefer it if we did this. These are all easy ways of drawing that boundary, and really it just takes you having the courage to do it, and I know that you can. So if you liked this, please share it on social media. Share it with your friends, your family, people who you think need some help on drawing clear and concise, loving, flexible, beautiful boundaries in their life. I can definitely help them. I super appreciate you guys being here with me. I hope you have an amazing week drawing really nice boundaries. And as always, take care.